After the Rain is one of my favorite anime of all time. It's stunningly beautiful, well-written, and brilliantly paced. The music is memorable, from tragic to bright, and everything in between. And that neck. My god. Most importantly, in terms of story structure, it handles the subject matter with as much grace and dignity as any show I've seen, and even then evolves far beyond a simple age gap romance premise. And with all that said, this show is criminally underrated because for all intents and purposes, it suffers from a case of false advertising. Based on the synopsis, most people would throw this show into the romance bin, but to try to put it into a box like that only stunts its true potential. The show lives up to, and in my opinion, exceeds its story's potential, and I'm going to talk about why this is. Today, I want to talk about love and passion, how they're different, how they're similar, and how you can love and have a passion for something even after losing it for a time. As the title suggests, love is like after the rain. You can either wait inside until it stops, or run out into it and press forward through the storm until you find yourself at home once again. Passion is like after the rain. When your passion burns out, it can leave you feeling devastated and lost. That thing that consumed you, that thing that you lived for, is suddenly ripped from your arms. The gray clouds hang over you, and you have to come to terms with your changing lifestyle. For our two main characters, they've both lost their passions. Or, at least, they think they have. Akira Tachibana stops running for her school's track team after a torn Achilles tendon tragically rips her away from her passion. Separated from her love, she finds herself lost in the rain that is now ever present in her world. While sitting inside a restaurant staring out the window at the rain, the manager of the restaurant shows kindness to her in her depressive, introspective state by giving her a free cup of coffee. This develops into a schoolgirl crush on a man who is almost 30 years her senior. In the absence of the wind that used to fill her ears as she ran, she, either consciously or not, attempts to fill that void with an almost unhealthy infatuation with Masami Kondo, the man who had been so kind to her. She takes a job at that same restaurant where she works under him, and from here she starts to become more and more committed to telling him that she's fallen in love with him. I want to analyze their first meeting, as this is the catalyst for their impending connection. Kondo notices Akira staring out the window as the rain pours steadily outside. He brings her a cup of coffee on the house and then does a little magic trick to produce a packet of milk. He tells her this.
ただ雨が止むのを待っているだけじゃつまらないでしょきっとすぐ止みますよ
This is quite possibly the most important line in the story, and not just because it directly ties into the motif of rain and storms that is concurrent throughout the show. It relates to Kondo directly and unbeknownst to us, or even Akira at the time. Kondo is a 45-year-old restaurant manager, and many people, including some of his workers, look down on him because of his tendency to acquiesce to customers. In his early years, he was a writer, and a very driven one. He was so driven and consumed by his passion that it's heavily implied that his wife left him because of this. Whether it was his failure to get anything published and make enough money, or his love of writing completely consuming him and leading him to neglect his fatherly duties, his family ends up shattered. It left him broken and drove him to abandon his writing. The parallels are obvious. Both of our main characters' passions ended up hurting them. Akira, physically, with an injury, and Kondo emotionally with the breakdown of his family. Both people are driven away by what they've lost and have come to desperately fear both the hole it's left in their lives as well as the thought of returning to it. Kondo is a bookworm and will still read the words of others. He'll even pen ideas of his own onto a notepad at work. But at home, in the dark, he sits at his desk and stares at a blank script, completely unable to move his pen. Akira still talks to her track friends and even tries to run in short spurts. But each time she talks to her friends, she feels increasingly disconnected from them because of her angst at the loss of such a major part of herself. Whenever she tries to run since the injury, she ends up hurting herself again. She almost seems to be in an abusive relationship with the thing that once entirely consumed her life. She fears the lack of it, and she just as equally fears its return to her life. When Kondo offers her a cup of coffee, he doesn't know her. He doesn't know anything that's going on in her life. What he does know is the look in her eyes, the yearning wistfulness of someone who's lost something, someone who's mourning something. He knows that look because he shows it constantly when he's alone, thinking about his position in life and how he ended up there. Kondo is able to empathize with Akira because he is in the same boat, though the absence of his passion is through a much longer time span than hers. What this does is allow two people to connect because they are in a similar situation. Sure, Akira has a crush on Kondo, and Kondo handles it with a good amount of tactfulness. He doesn't pursue her beyond one pseudo-date, one that she desperately begged for. And this is contrasted with her date with whatever his name is, which was miserable, while her date with Kondo was literally the exact same thing, but because it was with him, it was perfect. While there are moments throughout the show that hint towards Kondo having romantic affections towards her, he is cautious and thoughtful about his approach. He knows how young she is and doesn't ever take advantage of her because of it. The most important part about this story is that their relationship transforms into something far more substantial than just a simple one-off romance. It goes from a schoolgirl's crush into a deep mutual respect and trustful bond between two damaged people. Kondo feels he is too far gone to return to his writing, which he alludes to when speaking about the samurai in Rashomon. Kondo can never see himself living as a thief. He's been so broken down by the world and his job that he has no energy or urge to be rebellious anymore. Even so, he very frequently reminisces on his youth and yearns for that rebellious spark that he used to have. Akira is still young and the wound is still fresh, but what Kondo does is make her realize that she can't live with regrets. He knows, more than anyone, that if she doesn't attempt to return to her passion, she will always look back and yearn for the chance to turn back time and take that step. At the same time, Akira shows Kondo that he is not too old to return to his love, even though he feels that he is. He carries those regrets, but those regrets shouldn't be something to wallow in. They should be acted upon and used as motivation to return to that thing that had always spurred him on before. By the end, both have come to respect each other and have been monumental in helping push each other's lives forward. Are they in love? The anime doesn't explicitly say, and honestly, I prefer it this way. They have such a respect for and understanding of each other that their relationship is now built upon a solid foundation, rather than a 17-year-old's crush on someone, who she may or may not see as a stand-in father figure, as her father is nowhere to be found in the show. Just a little side note. Though the uncomfortable and sometimes tumultuous moments of their relationship come through, they have come out of the storm stronger and invigorated to reignite their passions once again. Love is like after the rain. The rain has ended for the two of them, and whether they've broken through the gray clouds with romantic love or not is something that they have to figure out for themselves. What we do know is that they now have a reason to push forward, to pursue love in many different forms, to engage in the passions that they both hold so dear. When they've fulfilled their promises, when they've grown, perhaps they'll reunite and realize a new passion for each other. No matter where life takes them, as long as they feel like they're finally where they belong, we can't help but cheer them on. Thank you for listening. I hope I've done the impact of this show and the power of its story justice. Most importantly, I hope I've caused you to think and ponder about these topics, and maybe, just maybe, I've been able to connect with you. If that's the case, go ahead and let me know. Thank you again.